Hey everyone, Margarita here. I want to talk a little bit today about the way that I look. Now, there seems to be a problem with the way that I look from every angle. Now, most people know me or know of me or think they know about me through my mother, through my family, or from any of these agencies who my mother has had contact with reporting delusions from the background. So when these people arrive, when she places phone calls and they come to my house, or when I show up at whatever agency or whatever department or whatever facility is involved in whatever is going on, nobody is comprehending that I live with 5 brain injuries and I live in continuous pain and suffering, most of which is in my brain. And I live with continuous ongoing symptoms from the initial overload of carbon monoxide from January 11, 2018. That is still going on to this day. Continuous symptoms. And because my brain tissue is open, every particle of every kind, not just carbon monoxide, goes through my open brain tissue and floods my system. It floods my brain first, then floods my system. So it can't fully be removed because I've never been put in a sterile environment and had proper treatment to remove it properly. Now, I did the best that I could along the way. And my home was my sterile environment the first 3 years until Ford Motor Company spilled 15,000 gallons of gasoline where my house sits in Flat Rock, Michigan. That was my sterile environment. And that's how I got myself to where I am today. I paid for all of my own treatment myself. $165,000 out of pocket in treatment while I sat in my sterile environment in my home and went to treatment and back every day and did nothing but lay here suffering very extreme symptoms. I'm talking 50, 60, 70 severe symptoms at any given time, ongoing day in and day out without relief. Without one day of relief until almost 3 years in, on Thanksgiving of 2020, was the first day I had 1 day of relief. Even then, it's not positive movement forward because ongoing treatment was still needed. That was just the first day of relief, while I still suffer extreme symptoms and still have to take certain pills in order to get some of them under control in order to have any type of functioning or get from point A to point B. Now, if I didn't have those few pills, and mind you, I do not get very many of anything, hardly. So, in order to get from point A to point B, I have to do certain things every day upon waking up. I have to do a certain system of things that I use to get functional, to remove some of this stuff from my system in order to get functional. And at the same time, going forward, I am removing carbon monoxide from my system along the way daily. And it comes out in loads and cycles. So I haven't talked about these other things that I use other than the hyperbaric oxygen. But I'll get to those later in their own videos. But there is numerous things that I have to do to keep us alive and functional, because now this involves my son as well. Now, not only did I spend $165,000 out of pocket for treatment, for hyperbaric oxygen treatment, my private insurance has spent almost $200,000 as well. And now the private center is permanently closed. So we have a different issue going on there. And now, the other problem is, let's say this bottle of juice right here is my body. And January 11, 2018, the day I overloaded with the carbon monoxide, the entire bottle is my body and was full of carbon monoxide to the max. And at that point, my brain tissue had broken through. It broke all the way through and flooded my system. So now at that point, I had 2 brain injuries. And then going forward, I had 3 additional ones down the line due to the ongoing effects and symptoms I suffer from. Because we can't have particles of any kind. So after, let's see, we treated for about 6 years. So we began treatment exactly 6 years ago, and the center just shut down. So 6 years of treatment, half of that was daily treatment. Now, it took all that time to remove that overload. All the way down to the juices about here, it took all that time to remove it to about here. And that's about where I am currently. Now, every day, we have to live modified lives. We can't take in particles of any kind. We can't just go out and about in the world like regular people. And even then, it took years of all of this in order to get us where we are today, for us to even be able to go anywhere or do anything at all. We were literally laid out here, sick by the toilet with all these severe symptoms, brain sagging, brain swelling, glued to the fucking toilet for over 3 years, daily, day in and day out, without help from anyone. In the meantime, my mother's delusions, her calling all the large agencies, the police department, CPS, pumping up the people around me full of delusions. Everyone was screaming these delusions in my face, disrupting me trying to recover, me treating an inpatient injury as an outpatient situation, laying here suffering, trying to get it under control myself while all of this was going on. And not only that, I had to reteach myself how to talk while all this was going on. So I've got all these agencies and people screaming delusions in my face when I can't have sound, nor can I spit out what I'm trying to say. So this whole time, due to all those brain injuries, especially that second one where I was dead for 4 hours, because now I've had numerous near-death experiences. I did die. I came back on my own without medical intervention. So you can view those videos separately. That has happened as well. I've had to learn how to talk, relearn, reteach myself how to talk without help from anyone, without help from the medical system. Because mind you, the only way we got treatment was treating at the Oxford Center in Troy, Michigan. That's all over the news where the boy in the hyperbaric chamber exploded, and now they're permanently shut down. That is the only reason we're even still alive. If I had not found that center, we would have been dead in 2019. So now this was pertaining to my son as well, because he was born suffering from this. And then I didn't fully figure it out for almost 2 years. So this pertains to him as well. He's just not out and about going in the world getting re-injured the way we are, the way I am. So he does get re-exposures. Usually we're together. We're together most of the time. He's homeschooled. We live modified lives. But we cannot just go out and about in the regular world like regular people. We have to stay homebound and then try to piece together. We're still piecing together daily functioning from the initial injury, which is still not really happening. And at the same time, Ford Motor Company here in Flat Rock and the city of Flat Rock itself has covered up Ford Motor Company spilling 2 more large amounts of gasoline since I've been back in my home 14 months ago. The initial one forced me from my home and forced me to buy a home in Ohio. Now, as soon as that happened, we had just barely crossed the first threshold with being homebound, trying to keep us in a sterile environment, doing daily treatment. Right before that happened is when we had crossed that first threshold, knowing, not even know if we were going to live until shortly before that. That's when there was light at the end of the tunnel. Then that happened, and it was extreme chaos. And I had to figure out how I was going to keep us alive during this. Because not only that, they're lying on the news about everything that was going on during that time. So you can view those videos separately on my channel as well. And I'm exposing more of that currently. That's what I'm working on, but I have to tell it in order. Because they've spilled 2 more times since then, and those 2 spills were not reported or made public. And I know where all the particles are at all times because my brain tissue is open. All particles go through. They go directly through, they load up in my open brain tissue, and then they flood into my system depending on how much I've taken in and what the particle is. What, if it's a chemical, a gas, or what, it depends on what it is. Because now at this point, I've been through numerous spills, chemical, gas, numerous explosions, wildfire particles. I've been through numerous large serious situations where I've nearly lost my life again. So now each time there's a re-exposure, that little bit gets added to what's still in my system. So now there's 2 separate problems because my brain tissue is open and the brain injuries, that's one part. That's one part of it. The other part is my cells are overloaded with the carbon monoxide. So this is what's left in my system. You add that little bit to it and it creates extreme symptoms immediately because everybody else's bottle is completely empty all the time. And they have a blood-brain barrier intact, so it's not flooding in there. Now, you add a little bit to it, every little breath, every little exposure, it adds to it. And if we're not very careful, it loads up extremely fast. And if it gets all the way to the top, that's us being dead. So now Ford Motor Company, currently, we're in the middle of another gas spill, and they're lying to the public about it. So I'm trying to release those videos, but I have to release them in order for everyone else to understand it. But currently, I'm forced to shelter in place, and I have my windows taped up, I have an air scrubber in my home, and there's nothing I can do about it. This has disrupted my income numerous times, on top of my mother's crimes and delusions and the help of the large agencies, that all these people who have helped her as well, like beyond large agencies. She uses family members, friends, neighbors, whoever. Now, because I'm living in the gas particles currently, this level rises up every minute of every day. So we have to contain ourselves to the room that's the clearest, and then we have to do these certain things every day to help remove this stuff from our systems in order to stay alive, or this bottle would fill up very fast, and that would be our bodies, and we would be dead. So that pertains to any exposure of any kind, any chemical, any particle of any kind. That's why we live modified lives. So now, yes, we do go out and about in the world. However, we have to be very careful about where we're going, who we're going with, what car we're in, what car we get behind, what building we walk into. All of those are a factor, and it becomes life-threatening very fast. So that is still our current situation. And you would have to view all the videos on my channel to fully understand everything that I'm talking about. So due to my mother's delusional phone calls and the crimes that were committed initially during the 2021 Ford spill, they believe me to have a mental disorder and or a drug problem, and don't believe that we were ever injured and there's nothing wrong with us. And now I do believe that they're starting to realize something isn't right, because I've been able to call and tell them when there's another spill, and they're covering it. There's no way anybody could possibly know that unless you really are that sick and injured, like I say. So I am in the middle of exposing all that, but this is how we have to live our lives. And it's going to take at least 5 or 10 years, if not the rest of our lives, to remove, because my son's about the same, like his cells, his system, whatever, about the same. His brain tissue is just more sealed shut. Same concept. It would take at least 5 or 10 years of everyday treatment and remaining in a sterile environment to remove that last bit from our systems to ever be completely clear. Now, because of all these re-exposures, re-injuries, spills, and whatnot, it's never going to get there, because we're not in a sterile environment. We're taking particles in every second of every day in our home currently. And so there's times when it does 100% clear during this, or I've removed us and we were in a sterile environment again, and then we are able to remove a little bit more. But it loads up very fast. So we have to be very careful. We cannot just go anywhere. We can't just go with anyone. A lot of people are ignorant. No, matter of fact, everybody is ignorant to our condition. Every single person in our lives, every person around us, any person who I've ever told that this is our situation, no one is comprehending reality. No one understands that I live in extreme chaos, day in and day out. Not only do I have to accommodate my condition and my son's condition into our lives and how we have to live modified lives and go about things, because that's one very large accommodation right there. It is very extreme, especially because of how we spent three and a half years laid out, extreme symptoms, suffering, not knowing if we were going to live. It was very extreme for all that time. And then it led to where we are slowly in the current. That has to be accommodated first and foremost before anything else within a day can ever happen. So right then and there, that changes everything about our lives every second of every day. Because I still don't have daily functioning from the initial injury, and I don't believe I ever will, no matter how much treatment I have. It's just so extreme, and there's so many re-injuries, re-exposures, all these brain injuries. So there's a problem with the way I look as well. So on top of accommodating these symptoms, when I'm trying to tell people this stuff, they're judging me on what I look like, or what I have, or the level I'm on in life, or my house, or the fact that I'm ahead of them in life. And then there's jealousy and envy mixed with it. So all of this is a problem in the way people view the situation and the way they're judging. So not only do we have to accommodate all that, but I also have to accommodate my mother's crimes, which then creates extreme chaos within our daily lives as well. Because these are all crimes, and she's using all these large agencies and all these other people to help her commit the crimes. So this has been ongoing. I've had to accommodate the crimes that she's been committing into my life ever since the time I had first turned 18 and bought my first home. That's been ongoing from that day, not just since my injury. So that's always had to be accommodated, and that's why I always had to work so hard before I became injured, because I had to stay 10 steps ahead and make sure I have enough money to provide for me and my children, to make sure everything is good, because she would constantly be ripping out the rug from under me, causing all these restarts, causing all these crimes and chaos. So I'd have to work 10 times harder in order to maintain life. So that has always had to be accommodated into my life. So when the injury became extreme, it made it 1,000 times worse. And that is still going on today. So now we have modified lives. We've accommodated our injury into all this, but the chaos and crimes have always had to be accommodated. And then that seems to make people even more jealous and envious. That fact that I'm able to accommodate all of this and then still be where I am today and have what I have. So if you view my other videos, you'll understand why. Because there's a lot of problems going on here. I'm being heavily judged on what I look like, which is an extreme problem because you can't tell that I have 5 brain injuries. You can't tell that I'm overloaded with carbon monoxide. Even the people in my life, the people in my home, people following me around, you still can't tell. No one can tell. No one seems to be able to comprehend. I can sit here and repeat to them until I'm blue in the face, and they still can't comprehend what I'm saying. That I'm really that sick and injured. And we live with continuous symptoms day in and day out, every day. It doesn't go away. On top of the brain injuries. So the carbon monoxide is one thing, the brain injuries is another thing. So I've accommodated chaos and crimes and conflict, and at the same time I've got all this jealousy and envy and the fact that I'm able to still maintain and keep it all going somehow. And the only reason I'm able to keep it going is because I've been 100% self-employed for a very long time. I've been self-employed since 2007 and 100% self-employed since 2012. And I've worked in restaurants for 20 years as well, but they overlapped, and I've had numerous forms of income along the way, and I usually have numerous things running. But where I'm at today, due to all the chaos and the crimes and the delusions, and the crimes of Ford Motor Company, the city of Flat Rock, and my mother, I was forced to put somebody else in my home for a year who caused over 100 grand in damage, and you can view those videos as well on my channel. Due to all of that, my income has completely stopped. There's nothing I can do about it, because my income is in other people's hands at this point. That should have never been the case. Ford cut my hotel off due to my mother's delusional phone calls, reporting false information about me that was never real in the first place. And so that leads to the current problem while they're continuing to spill right now. That's leading to today as well. So due to all of that, I put somebody in my house who destroyed the entire thing in a year, and it was almost done being remodeled for me to turn that into an Airbnb and purchase my next home. This is my 3rd home. I then had to purchase a 4th home in an emergency to keep us alive. And now I'm working on trying to get it all back together so I can still generate income. And I'm waiting on my homeowner's insurance company, and I've been dealing with them for over a year and a half now. And I can't make it move any faster. There's all these steps involved with it, and I can't make it move any faster than what it is. So all these people viewing my situation and viewing what I have and viewing what I look like, I don't wear makeup. I never have. I never do. That's one problem. I look like this naturally. I wake up looking like this. I didn't do anything to look like this. All I did was straighten my hair. There seems to be a problem with when I'm telling somebody I'm that injured and I'm that sick, or we need oxygen, we need help, or I'm trying to report one of my mother's crimes, it goes right over their head when I tell them how injured and sick we are. Because we don't look sick and injured. That's disgusting. People are extremely disgusting. What we have been through is extremely disgusting. There are so many people and agencies involved that no one can comprehend any of what I'm saying. So now we live modified lives, permanently injured, permanently disabled. We have to accommodate the symptoms, exposures, re-injuries, and then we got to accommodate my mother's crimes and the crimes of the large agency she's using all at one time. I've never gotten to live a normal life my entire life. My entire life. I've always had to stay 100 steps ahead because of all the chaos and crimes and delusions that it's destroyed my entire life, which has now led to my current situation in my Chapter 13 bankruptcy. It's led to all of this. Now, when I try to tell people I don't get to live a normal life, they can't comprehend it. Not one person has ever been able to comprehend it. I have never gotten to be able to go, okay, I'm going to plan this out, I'm going to carry this out, I'm going to go work here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. I don't get to do that. Or I'm going to go on a date. I don't get to do any of those things, especially now because of my injury. So that makes it way, way, way worse. I don't get to plan out my life, carry out my plans. Every single thing I've planned gets destroyed and disrupted due to my mother's chaos, crimes, and the agencies and people she uses. So that is still the current situation. It's been ongoing all of these years. So what I have to do is I have to have 4 to 6 avenues already planned in advance of which way I may go next, because all of the chaos and crimes and the rug is constantly being ripped out from under me like this is some giant game. This woman is very disturbed, very disgusting, and very sick. This is a giant game to her. And she laughs like a deranged lunatic in high hysterics while she's ripping out the rug from under me and watching the agency she's using doing it too, and the people around her doing it too, and it's really funny to her. So she's laughing in high hysterics while here I am stumbling and fumbling, trying to keep everything going. And then I've got all this jealousy and envy because I'm still ahead of everybody else. And I'm chronically sick and injured, living in continuous amounts of pain and suffering that wax and wane all day, every day. That shit is disgusting. I have both ends of the spectrum going on at one time. I have people who know nothing about me and think they know stuff about me, and they think I'm this mental disorder, drug addict, loser, this, that, and the other thing. And then and it's jealousy and envy as well. That's what causes all that, because it's my mother's jealousy and envy and telling all these people and agencies this. On the opposite end, I have people that are not connected to my mother separately who I run into in other ways, and however, in my life. And they see what I have and they see what I look like. And then they're jealous and envious, and they're attacking me separately from a whole other angle and have nothing to do with my mother. And it's because I'm that high up on the chain, which is why my mother's jealousy and envy is that extreme. So at the same time, this is going on at the same time. All of this at the same time. Now, before I ever even realized things were to the degree that they are, I had no clue that's what was going on. I lost a game I didn't even know I was playing until it was too late, and I was permanently injured for the rest of my life. So now I have all this proper medical documentation stating all of my disabilities, injuries, and whatnot, what's led to the current day. Initially, I did not have all that due to the chaos and crimes in my mother as a Beaumont Hospital employee for 45 years. Even though now she's retired, it doesn't matter. The damage is done. Our medical records are heavily falsified all throughout the entire system. We still can't get treatment no matter what. No matter what situation is going on, even if we're in dire need of supplemental oxygen because there's heavy particles in the air, we still can't get treatment. The only time I'm able to get oxygen is if I actually fully die. And then I'm able to wake up long enough to tell them that that's what the problem is. And then even then, it's temporary, because usually it's only EMS that's going to give it to me. Once I get to the hospital, we get booted right out with no help whatsoever. Still riding on the delusions and the false information in my medical record. So all of these are really serious problems. Now, if my mother has ever produced any type of mental disorder documentation, I promise you that stuff is not real. I've never been a part of the mental health system ever. The only time that that's ever been the case is when I brought in Charmaine 5 years ago to start documenting the crimes and everything that was going on in the current and everything going forward. I'm the one who hired her because of my mother's disorders that are undiagnosed and the crimes she commits and the chaos that she causes within our lives, within my entire household's lives and everybody around me. She creates all that chaos, and that's why I brought Charmaine in. Now, I warned Charmaine in advance. She was involved for several months before my mother realized that she existed. So I warned her in advance what was going to happen when she found out she existed, because I knew it was only a matter of time. And in the meantime, my mother was sending direct proof and evidence for me to bring to Charmaine to prove everything that I'm saying, and she had no idea the woman was even involved yet. So eventually, she figures out she's involved. She starts placing delusional phone calls to Charmaine, telling her all this stuff about me that isn't real, which by this time I already know that's the case, and that's what she does with all these agencies and people. So now Charmaine's got a firsthand view of exactly what I'm talking about and exactly how deranged this woman is and exactly what's going on and what's been going on all these decades. Then she still continues on with it, because that is still going on to this day. Now, Charmaine has seen everything play out week by week. From the time I hired her 5 years ago, she's still watching everything play out week by week. The other thing is, when I brought her in, I did not know if I was going to live or not. I was in an extreme state of suffocation, brain swelling, extreme symptoms, just could not get through each second of each day, had no quality of life whatsoever, and did not for all those years. And she watched all of that, and she knew, she could see based on the people around me and their actions, she could see that it was my mother pumping everybody up full of delusions, causing everybody to act that way towards me. So now she has a full scope view of everything that's going on. And in order to get a proper diagnosis on my mother, the only way to do that would to bring in a criminal minds team at this point, and have Charmaine behind the scenes, able to, decipher what my mother is saying is truth versus fiction, because nobody would be able to tell. She's able to manipulate everybody. So no one would be able to tell if what she's saying is real or not. The only person who would know the truths is Charmaine or me. So it would take an entire team to get her diagnosed at this point. Now, this sick game she's playing, this is a sick game because it's destroyed my life. It's destroyed every aspect of my life. It's destroyed my health. We now live chronically sick, permanently injured, modified lives. Destroyed my life. It's It's destroyed my finances. It's cost me over $1 million in income I would have made along the way. Probably more than that, because if nothing was ever disrupted, everything would have kept building and building and building. Instead of getting wiped out all the time, everything would have kept on building along the way. So I've lost directly from my mother's actions directly over $1 million in what I would have produced in income. She doesn't even have enough assets to back up what she has caused me to lose between the time I was 18 and the current. So that's its own problem on its own. Now this sick game, this is disgusting. When I try to tell people the situation, not only have they already received pre-phone calls about me having a mental disorder, so they already don't believe anything I say, but then they're judging me on what I look like. So that's its own issue as well. Not comprehending. I can tell them I'm chronically sick, I'm permanently injured, I have all these injuries. They still don't comprehend it. It goes straight over their head. So there's numerous problems when I'm trying to tell people. The other problem is my mother is not neurotypical. All of these people I'm trying to tell this information to, they're neurotypical most likely. Most of them are neurotypical. So when I try to tell a neurotypical person what's going on and what has been going on, it goes straight over their head as well, because they can't comprehend why somebody would do something like that in the first place. Oh, your mother would never do that. No, your mother would never do that. That's the problem. That's why she's still walking around free as a bird. This is not going to stop until somebody apprehends her. That's where I'm at with it. This will not stop until somebody physically apprehends her and puts her behind bars where she belongs. And I promise you, it's behind bars, not in a padded cell, because she's been able to control her behavior this entire time. So all during this, her behavior has been controlled. And nobody sees the way she really acts and what she really does behind the scenes, because it's controlled, which means she belongs in prison, not in a padded cell. So, this game is really sick. And this is another reason people cannot comprehend this. Usually people have jobs, or they have numerous kids, or they're doing things in life. Now, she's never had to provide for herself. My dad's paid all the bills her entire life. They've been together since they were teenagers. It's over his head. It's been over his head what she's been doing all this time. That's why I left when I was 18. So because she does all this stuff, and my dad has been providing for her and paying all their bills all these decades, and then she worked at her job at Beaumont for 45 years. She worked making $30,000 a year. I think the last few years she made $35,000 a year. So that's minimal money. I've been making that since I was 16 years old, or more, way more. I made that at 16. So no one can comprehend it, because regular people have stuff to do in their lives. She doesn't have to provide her own bills. She doesn't pay her own bills. She used their Beaumont job to hide behind so she could carry out all of these malicious activities and her crimes. So then she looks like a law-abiding citizen and somebody who isn't doing these things, because she shows up for work every day, on time, every day, never been late a day in her life, never missed a day of work ever. Ever in 45 years, except for the 2 times I made her late. Ever. That's not neurotypical. That's not normal. Regular people don't never miss work. Regular people don't never get a speeding ticket. She's got too much control. She's got all this control. She controls all these agencies, every little thing. So now when I'm telling people this, they can't comprehend how somebody would do this or why they would waste the time. Well, first of all, she's not neurotypical. That's key number 1 right there. She's a deranged lunatic, criminally insane, committing all these very serious crimes and getting away with it, hiding behind her Beaumont job for 45 years, looking like a law-abiding citizen who's now retired, while she's hiding behind my dad who pays everything. She doesn't even have a cat or a dog, no pet. So you have nothing to do all day long but place delusional phone calls to all these agencies and flap your jaw and gossip to whoever you're on the phone with, all these family members and friends that you regularly contact. All these people, hundreds, thousands, over 1,000 people at this point. That's what she does. She has nothing better to do. That's why this is going on. No one can comprehend it when I'm telling them this. Even when I come make a police report, it doesn't matter if I make it today, if I made it 2 years ago, if I made it last week, if I made it 10 years ago, doesn't matter. No one's listening to anything that I'm saying and the result of the crimes. And then when I show up looking the way I look, that's another problem. That just adds to the bucket. Why don't you look at the shit on paper and what it's caused on paper in my actual life? The receipts aren't lying. I paid for all my own treatment out of pocket. $165,000 out of pocket. And then my insurance paid almost another $200,000. First of all, an insurance doesn't cover hyperbaric oxygen therapy unless you have one of the covered 14 or 15 conditions. Mine is carbon monoxide. That's why it was covered by my private insurance. So how is that fake? That wouldn't be fake. That doesn't add up. There's all these problems going on in the current. There's no way I'm ever going to get to live a regular life. I mean, I'm never going to live a regular life. I'm always going to have to live a modified life. I've been since the day of my injury. And actually, the first half of it, I had no quality of life whatsoever. Zero. Extreme suffering day in and day out. Physical suffering, not mental and emotional, physical injuries. Extreme. I stayed that way without one day of relief. And now I'm never going to get to live a normal life until she's apprehended. I don't get to make plans and carry them out because the crimes and the chaos and the delusion telling and phone calls and all the bullshit is still going on until somebody stops it and she's apprehended by the proper authorities. I'm never going to get to make any plans and carry them out in my life. I'm never going to get to build my life as I see fit. Even though I'm permanently disabled, I'm still providing income as a self-employed individual. It's on a pause right now, but it will resume eventually. It's just a matter of time, and I got to wait this gas leak out. I got to wait out all the red tape and paperwork with my insurance company. All the avenues that I have going on, they're all on a pause, and it's all due to her crimes and delusions as well. So once that eventually breaks through and I get that all situated, the crimes and the delusion telling and the phone calls, that's all going to continue on until somebody stops her. I'm not able to see my dad. My dad's 71 years old. He's permanently injured. She's caused all his near-death experiences and all the rushes to the hospital. She directly caused all those. I reported those all in advance to all of those care facilities, to the care facility itself, to each hospital. And the only hospital who started to believe me was Beaumont Wayne. And that's why she had him removed from there. And then the one incident that made him blind and made him to the degree injured that he is today on January 8th, 2024, was due to me kind of getting somebody to listen that there's an issue. And so she made sure that he had an incident there where he came near death. They had to resuscitate him. He came back blind. He was he was intubated for about 2 months, and he still hasn't come back from that day. Either way, the care facility is at Special Tree in Romulus, Michigan. Special Tree. I told them in advance before he ever even got transferred there, from the beginning of his injury, what she was going to do, what's been going on all these years, what she's going to pull, and she still slowly manipulated all of them and managed to get me banned and still come in there all the time, poisoning his food, causing these hospital visits, these rushes back to the hospital. She managed to still do that, and I warned them in advance. Now I've been completely banned for almost a year because somehow she managed to manipulate every single person along the way. Mind you, I built success from the ground up. If I had not been being disrupted all of this time, I would be a millionaire. I'd have been retired a long time ago, and my income would be flowing by itself without me having to lift a finger. That's how deranged and jealous this woman is. So where we are today, there's a very serious issue. People have a problem with the way I look. Yes, I rehabilitated myself. I've done everything by myself. I couldn't reach out to anybody for help. I did all this by myself, that extremely injured near death. Very few people offered a helping hand in this direction or that the entire time this has gone on. Very few, and I'll do a video on those very few people. Now, there is one person who held a door for me at one time when I was in extreme chaos, fighting for my life, running for my life. And that person, I couldn't have been more thankful that day. And that was so extreme to me. This is just so absurd that it's come to all of this. I need a federal agency to look into this woman, to look into all the agencies. I have all the proof. I have everything with me. And if I don't, I can tell you where to find it. I've already tried to report this to numerous federal agencies, numerous local agencies, and above the locals because they're involved in the crimes. I've already tried numerous different times, even before my dad's injury. Nobody will listen to me because of the way I look. Or they want to believe when I say my mother, they're thinking of their own damn cookie baking mother. I've already tried to report it. I've tried every avenue possible. I need somebody to take me seriously, look into this. The proof is in the fucking pudding. Google me. Google my name. Google my address. Google my name. My address pops up. Property records are public. Google my address. Look at my video of the tour of my house. Does that describe the person this deranged lunatic has been telling everybody that I am all these decades? All these people and agencies involved should be ashamed of themselves. There's people, I promise you, there's people involved in these agencies, I promise you will never have a job again and will be serving prison time. You watch, mark my fucking words, you will see. Watch the rest of my story. I'll be back with another one. Bye.